During a high school class project, my teacher told me it's unrealistic being a CEO. It's been my dream to be a CEO since I was 10. So I told her, it is realistic. Follow me on my journey to learn what it takes to become a CEO. Hey guys, welcome to another episode of the Realistic CEO podcast. Today I'm here with Keshawn. How are you doing today, Keshawn?
What's up, man? I'm good. Feeling good. I'm happy to be in the presence of a young entrepreneur and CEO like yourself. And, I've just been inspired by watching you grow and seeing what you've been doing. And it's actually motivated me to keep doing what I'm doing. So congratulations on your work.
Thank you. So the first question I'm going to ask you is, can you tell me a little bit about your journey to how you got to where you are today?
My journey and how I got to where I am today started way back when I was a little kid reading comic books. So for me, I always had a very, very ambitious mind. Everything I saw on TV or out there, I always said I can do that. My mother never told me no. She always encouraged that I can try it. I didn't care what it was. If I saw somebody flying a plane or racing cars or building a building, and I was like, I can do that. My mom never said, no, you can't. She always encouraged me to keep going and keep trying to do what I do. So my doors are always open. And I never had that negative feedback from the first person that loves you, as in your parents. And so that was one of my biggest inspirations. And me, I grew up as an athlete playing sports. And back in the 80s, it was quiet to be a nerd. You couldn't actually be out in the public with comic books and everything else because you would get teased back in the day. But I always had a quiet passion to being an author. I used to love writing stories, making stories on my own. I read comic books from DC to Marvel, everything that you could think of. And my favorite superhero of all time was the Flash. So for me, I was always wanting to be that fast kid. So I always ran track. I played football. I ended up going to college for football, played in minor leagues a little bit and had a great career. But always in the back, I was doing this thing called writing and creating my own art. And, when I was 17, my best friend, Marcus McDowell, he was diagnosed with cancer. We were in the hospital. And we always wanted to create a comic book. He was an artist, and I was that author. So we would have wanted to create our first comic book, but unfortunately, 11 months later, he passed away. So my passion for my art, writing, and putting things together kind of went to a wayside for a little bit because I lost my best friend, who was like my twin. But I met with his father a few months later, gave me all the drawings that he had, and I just kept having this reoccurring dream. And everything that I saw was building upon this superhero fighting under a street light and fighting all these monsters. So I know I can't draw, so I just started writing the story. 6 months later, I have my first manuscript. While I'm doing that, I'm still playing football, going to college, building your real career of outside and what the workforce thinks is. But I always loved kids, so I was a teacher, and my life was always around kids. And how it intertwined together with athletics, education, and also my art was I was a fifth grade teacher at Homer Elementary School. And I had a group of kids, my class were a bunch of fifth graders that were on third and fourth grade reading levels. And they didn't like school. They didn't like reading. And so I went to the principal and I asked her, is it possible I can take a crack at doing something different? So I had my kids don't go to the cafeteria for lunch and I would read this manuscript to them. And they loved it. And I kept reading every day to them. And I would teach them how to play chess. Their reading levels went up. Their love for school went up. And after I finished that first manuscript, and they were like, what was that story? I said, it was mine. I wrote it. They couldn't believe it. And so it just kind of changed the aspects of pulling in, the nerd side of creating superheroes, being an athlete, but pulling education and pulling it all together. And it just built to where I am today. So coming full circle, I grew up in this Boys and Girls Club where we are now. And to become the CEO of the Boys and Girls Club is a dream come true because I'm right where I want to be with the passion with the kids, teaching them about education, and introducing them to my superheroes and having them grow their own. So it's a beautiful journey. For me, I always feel like it's just beginning every day. And I just love where I am now and where it's going.
So the first thing you said is that your mother allowed you to be able to dream.
Yes.
And she never turned you down.
Yes.
Like, how was that important to you?
That was one of the most important things that to this day, me and my mother, we talk about that. It's probably the biggest thing of having somebody believe in you, even if it's the most outlandish thing in the world, they never turn it down and say, you might want to try something else. That's too hard. But it's just, I know you can do it. So when you have that love and passion of somebody believing in you, the belief in yourself grows. And a lot of our kids don't get that. And I know there was an episode that happened with you and how this happened. So you understand the importance of having a mentor or somebody that's in your life that really can be, just say, yes, you can change the whole outlook of where your projection of life goes. So that first dream of saying that with my mom is why I'm here today.
So you talk about your mindset, how you always had this mindset.
Yes.
Would you say growing up playing sports has allowed you to like kind of increase that mindset
Oh,
to
absolutely.
another level?
Absolutely. Playing sports, you're in a team effort. Everybody plays a role. Some people's roles are a little bit bigger than others. Fortunately for me, when I was in high school, my role was very big. I'd never let that get to my head. I always stayed humble with it. But it's one of the biggest things when you know that you're dependent on, where you can have that, like your dad said before we started, there's a clutch factor of everybody depends on you to make sure that things goes right. And you're not afraid to fail. Mm-hmm. So even if you do win or lose, you're not afraid to fail. There's one of the best quotes that you see from Michael Jordan that he had, and it's a commercial. He's taken thousands of shots. He's missed millions of shots, but everybody just remembers the ones that I make. I remember the ones that I miss. And it's like everybody fails, but you learn from those failures and you keep going. And we've all been there. The one thing in sports that's taught me is the losses actually make you a better person, because if you go through life without feeling those losses, you think you're invincible. And in some sports that's a good thing, but also in life you have to feel that downfall of, hey, wow, this did hurt, but you wake up the next day and you go through. The one time that really bothered me the most was when my first year in college. We were in a championship every year at American International College. The first year we lost the championship, and I was devastated because we'd never lost something like that. And the next day we go into film. Literally the next day we're in film session, and the coach is looking at it. He's not depressed because we lost. He's looking at the film. He's congratulating the seniors. And he's like, we got a good road ahead of us. You guys did a great job, but we're here to see another day. And everybody kind of changed, like, okay, we're ready to work out again. So having that mindset as an athlete, when things happen like that, it push you in the mindset of, okay, let's focus, let's refocus and grind and find that solution. You build your team around that with like-minded individuals, people that are smarter than you in the room, and you keep growing. So if you look at me, everything that I've learned from every aspect of life, from me writing, creating the arts, being an athlete, going to school, everything has brought me to be able to lead the organization that I grew up in and bring it to new heights.
So another thing you talk about is that you liked comics when you were younger and you know how to hit it a little bit.
Yes.
So can you tell me about your comic journey a little bit more?
Oh my gosh, my comic journey. Oh man. Used to have all these comic books in the closet of my room, like stacks of them. Unfortunately, they burned we had a fire in the house and we lost all those comics. But my journey was just seeing how the stories are played out, how characters are built, the backstories, how they become evil, being evil or even a superhero or having their conflicts. And when I started my own, I had the same thing. But my story became a little bit more personal than any other story. So when people read my book, I have Menzel as my superhero. He has a protector that lives in his crystal named Solar in the first book. And Solar is actually his big brother who passed away. They kind of transferred energy from his home planet. And in the first book, they battled Morbid. So if you read the book, Menzel was actually me. My best friend is actually Solar. And Morbid is actually the cancer that took my best friend. So in the book, Keshawn and Marcus, Menzel and Solar beat the cancer. And from there, it was like having a tattoo. I got addicted to writing, and the stories took off on its own. Created my next couple books, and then caught the eye of Cosby Media Production with Dr. Braxton Cosby down in Atlanta, Georgia, and it's just been taking off from there.
So another thing you talked about was when you first read your manuscript to the kids in your school.
Yes.
And they were engaged and actually wanted to be there and learn, and they increased their reading level.
Absolutely.
So like, what are some ways that, as a teacher like you were, how are you able to engage with your students?
Well, the first thing that I always learn is to be real with your students. Everybody learns differently. I can't teach like a cookie cutter. You can't put them in a classroom. And that's the one biggest thing I have with American education. It's always cookie cutter. Everything that we do, we have this whole template of plan and how everybody's supposed to learn a certain way. Not everybody learns that way. And I had a class of kids that have struggled from preschool all the way to fifth grade. Like I said, second, third, fourth grade reading levels, and they hated school. Why did they hate school? They didn't have anybody that believed in them that they could learn. So I had to take a different approach. First thing I did, I saw that they didn't like reading. I saw they didn't like math. They didn't like word problems. So I had to figure out a strategy. First thing I did, pull out my manuscript. I said, I'll read the first page of your book, my book. I didn't tell them it was my book, my manuscript. And I'll read the story to you. If you like the first page, I'll keep going. If you don't, I'll stop. So I read the first page and I stopped, and it just like, what happened with the baby? Oh, you want to know what happened with the baby? Okay, so you want me to keep reading? Yeah, keep reading. So I kept reading. And then a couple of days, I'll go through first 2 weeks. I want to teach you how to play chess. What's chess? You know how to play checkers? Yeah, I know checkers. So this one is a little bit more strategy. So I would teach them how to play the game of chess while I was teaching them how to do word problems. So now they have to slow down and think ahead. So you're pulling in something that's fun, that's not educational in the school, not knowing that I'm a teacher. So everything in my books has to tie in with language arts, science, math. You're learning without even knowing you're learning. Then I teach you chess. You're starting to think and calm down and stop pressuring yourself, and you're thinking above because you want to beat the person against you. You apply that to your math problems or your work. By the time we got to taking MCAS, my kids were scoring as high as the highest class because they were able to control their own education. They learned from me, and I had parents call me, what are you doing with my kid? I said, I know I probably swore out of my bag because I know they got mad at me. It was like, no, their game is off and they got books on their bed. What are you doing? I said, well, come in and listen and see. So they would come in at lunch. They would listen. They would see how engaged the kids are. They're asking questions. They're bringing up their hypothesis of what's coming up next. So pulling them fully engaged, now that I got your attention, I can teach you everything else because now learning is fun because now you learn how to understand something that's not in the school. You learn another game that probably would never be introduced to you. And now you're applying it to school and it's like, oh my God, this is easy. School is actually easy. So the biggest test that I had, we were doing a chicken wing dissection. So I was able to take my class at Central High School into the AP science class, and they were able to name every ligament and bone in the chicken wing with the high school students. And these are fifth graders. The teacher looked at me and was like, Keshawn, what in God's name are you doing? How are they doing this at this age? I said, because I learned how to teach my kids. Everything is easy once you unlock that little gift. Everybody can learn. Just everybody learns different. So as a teacher, you have to take that time as a kid. And for me, that was the biggest thing. It's just seeing how to unlock that passion for education. Now, I have some kids that have become CEOs of their own. One of my favorite ones, I had one of my kids that was probably one of my baddest kids in the classroom. Fast forward 20 some odd years, I'm over at the shoe store by Walmart, and this kid is about 6'4", 300 pounds. And he's like, Mr. Dodds. And I'm like, yeah. He's like, you remember me? No. He was like, I will. You're fifth grade kid. This is why I'm here. Me and my mom opened the store. And I'm like, what? And my daughter, and they were sitting there, oh my God, that's the kid you were talking. Yes, that's the kid. Seeing how you have a passion for kids, it makes them want to do better. So, yeah.
So how are you able to bring that mindset of being like a teacher and wanting to help kids to your job now as?
It's that because of where I grew up. This is what I was introduced to as a kid at the club. We had Tony Malone here, Mr. Dawson, who was the executive director at the time, Tom Brennan, and a lot of different people that were our counselors. They all invested into us. And so when I got the opportunity to take over, I wanted to give the same back, and if not more, because they nurtured us. I was always running in this hallway. I get in trouble every single day because I would get caught by Mr. Dawson running down the hallway. He would make me come and spend 15 minutes in this office, and I would have to sit there. One day, I sat there and I was like, Mr. Dawson, I want your job. He looked at me, took his glasses off, and said, be careful what you ask for, son. So 2016, when I got this job, I understood fully what he said because it's a full commitment. It's not a 9 to 5. It's 24 hours a day, and every kid in here is your kid. You have to take care of them like that. And you also have to make sure that you're nurturing the community. So being in this position, it was a lot more than what you would think as a 7, 8-year-old running in the hallway until you're a 46-year-old sitting in this desk like, oh my gosh, I got payroll, I got grants, I got this to do, I got to meet with these people. But it's fun. It's something that you aspire to be. And having this opportunity is a gift to me. So everything that I take, I see these kids, I see the next CEO walking through these clubs. And that's what I want to nurture, to make sure that they have the same opportunities I did.
So when you're sitting in your office, you're like, wow, this is a lot compared to when I was 7, 8.
Yes.
So like how are you able to make sure that you're able to enjoy your job while also getting your work done?
The best thing is to enjoy your job. Walk through preschool. Walk through I don't care if you have the worst day in the world. I mean, I've had days where your frustration takes over. As a grown man, you sit and just want to cry. I will get up, I'll walk through preschool, and you'll see these 2-year-olds to 5-year-olds walking in. And you ever walk through a store and you see like those squishy dolls and you push them all together and they all make this big sound and you just smile? That's what you get when you get to preschool. Then you see why you're doing what you're doing. Then you get to your older kids and you get to see the development from the preschool to 5-year-olds to 12-year-olds to your 18-year-olds in your teen program. And you see why you're doing this. And it makes you feel good that you're making a change in the lives of kids, that you can open a door for them, make sure that they can believe in themselves. So it makes the job a lot easier, especially when you have these hard days. Walking through and seeing those bright eyes, it's like, I used to be one of those kids, so I know why I'm doing what I'm doing.
So as a leader, what are like some traits that are important to you?
So as a leader, as you go through life, you have a lot of different leaders that kind of guide you, from your counselors to your teachers to your employee, your bosses. You kind of pick and choose what you like out of all of them. So I've had some great opportunities to work for some great people, from being working for Dr. Bobby Rennickson as my first principal, to Miss Sullivan as my other principal, to working under Charlie Ryan as the mayoral aide. I've had some great bosses. And what I've taken from them is what I am now. One thing is, family is always first. For me, especially working in this Boys and Girls Club, if I have employees that have kids, their kids should be here. You should be in a place where your kids can see what you do. Because now, if I'm worried about my kids being out there, I can't focus on my job. So we pull family in. Also, everybody is able to fail. Just don't fail to the point where we can't recover. I've always said that. If you're trying and it doesn't work out, that's not a problem. That's a great thing, because now we're going to find a solution. So I kind of take the reins off of, hey, don't worry about failing. Let it happen. I'm not going to be a micromanager. I want you to fail, but then we're going to come back, strategize, get to the solution. So some of the biggest trait that I have is kindness, passion, and effort. If you're always giving effort and you're always putting your best foot forward, there's no way that you can fail. You know, I look at success, even in those times of failure, that there's success lined in there, because you're only going to get there once you only got to succeed once. You can fail a million times, but once you succeed once, it's there. So for me, the journey of seeing that process go through is amazing. And sometimes I may know the end result, but I need that person to go through that process. And sometimes I will steer them if they're going too far left or too far right. I need them to stay in this path, and they get there. And then once they get it, they know they got there with the help, but they did it themselves. So it makes them a better person, that they can take those skills here at this club and also take them out anywhere else.
So how is kindness an important trait as a leader?
Because you got to understand that everybody has things that they go through in life. And if you're always hawking down on them and being this overbearing boss or something else, that can really turn off an employee that's really good, or somebody that doesn't react well to criticism or hard ways to go about life. But being kind is one of the best things that you can do, is understanding that every person is a person, and that, you know, we have a job to do, but understanding that, hey, I see that you're hanging your head today. What's going on? Are you okay? And if they want to talk, they can. If they don't, they don't. But having that kind heart, knowing that your door is open, it makes people want to work harder for you. It's just like in a team concept of sports. If your coach is always hard on you, you can work with some people, but he can't coach everybody the same way. I know for me, I had my father yelled at me all the time. He yelled at me ain't no way I don't respond to it. But if you challenge me, one of my coaches had a great job. He would just take me out the game. Oh, you're not ready to play. I know you were scared. And I'm like, what? But he's yelling at everybody else over here. Nah, yeah, Dodds, just take your time, it'll be okay. Now, my mentality is like, oh, you're doubting me. So from having my mom saying, yes, you can, to somebody just like, you can't do that. I know you can't. It just triggers me to be like, okay, I can prove you wrong. But at the end, I know you can do it. Mm-hmm. I'm like, you were playing with me? Oh, I know how to trigger you. Because I know yelling at you doesn't work. And that's a good coach or a good boss. If I yell at you, you shut down. He's like, whatever. But if I challenge you, I know I can give this to somebody else that can do it better than you. What? Now it's a challenge. So for me, that's how I look at life. And I do that with certain, you got to understand your employees. Some you got to kind of get on, some you let them go, others you challenge. Hey, I got this project going on. Do you think you can handle it? I don't know if you can handle it. Oh, I think I can handle it. Then they do it. I'm like, I knew you could. And so I challenge people the same way that I was brought up. So things that I taken from the people that I learned from, I do. And it really does help to understand my walk and also the walk of other people.
So I like how you use you growing up playing sports as a way to be able to
absolutely
to be able to be a better leader for the people
yes.
that work for you. So like growing up, and you said you have a coach that would challenge you, be like, yeah, you can't do it, just to make sure that he's getting 150% effort.
Absolutely.
So like, how are you able to do that with your employees? Like maybe, yeah, you say, yeah, I'm gonna challenge you by giving you an assignment that you might not be able to do it, but like as in a way to show them that they're able to do it at the end of the day.
It's everything for me. Everything is a sport. If you're an athlete, everything you do becomes a sport, especially when you're working, especially for kids. When you look at a challenge up in front, you can actually see the passion that happens when a team, when they come together or how they pull apart. Are you able to pull the team together or have the right people in place to make it work? Sometimes it doesn't work. And you can't be afraid to say, hey, this isn't the way where we're going. We may have to part ways, but you bring that team together. And when you have the right people in place, you'll see it love work. And it gets to a point where people can challenge each other without saying it's disrespect. Mm-hmm. And it can come from the top down. And that's when you know you have a good team, because the ultimate goal at the end is the success of the organization or the success of the business. And I've seen that happen over the years I've been here, coming into my 9th year. It's been a good journey, and I've had our ups and downs, but I've had the right people in place, and it made it easier to see how a team works and pulling aspects of being an athlete, importing that into what we do on a daily basis is amazing.
So how are you able to build a team?
Oh, it takes a lot of effort finding the people with like minds and finding people that are skilled in different fields than you. I've always learned that if you're the smartest person in the room, it's time for you to get out that room. I need to be in a room where people can challenge and work. And I put this on my team. Every person I interview, and I've had people say, I've never talked to a boss in a negative way. I say, well, you're working with me. I'm going to tell you this. You're working with a 100% optimistic boss. I don't see the negative in anything. I always see the bright light in the future. I need a bunch of pessimistic people that can slow me down, because I'm a bull in a china shop. If you can put me in my place, we can get to that end result in a better way. I will listen, but you have to challenge me. And I put it to a test with my director of operations, my program director, because they would both come in. I was like, I can't say anything to Keshawn because he's the boss. So I would purposely do something I know was wrong because it's the end result, just to see if they would do it. So the best one that I did was with Charles during COVID, and our policy was masks in the gym everywhere. And I would purposely, because he would never challenge me. Okay, I'm gonna walk out without a mask, see if he says it. Everybody else has masks on, but I'll walk out. And I walk out, come back, get water, never have a mask on. First day, never said anything. Second day, I'm with no mask walking in. Then I was like, okay, this is not working because he's not saying anything to me. So had our basketball team come in, don't put your mask on when you go to the gym. They're looking at me, what? Don't put your mask on. I need something to happen. So they go in there. These are all kids. Charles comes in here and he starts blasting me because my daughter's in there. So you want your daughter to get COVID? So now you're gonna have everybody here with no mask. You're not wearing a mask. I'm tired. I was like, oh, you finally said something. He's like, what? I said, I was waiting to challenge you. So now you see, I had to put it to a point where you challenge me and I'm going to follow the rules. Everybody has to wear their mask. Everybody has to do everything. He was like, what? I said, I unlocked you to be able to talk because this is your ship. I said, I know I'm the boss, but these are your policies. We have to follow it. If your CEO doesn't follow your policies, what are we good at? So it gave him the empowerment to be able to lead and knowing that your leader is going to follow your lead. So being a good leader, you have to also learn how to be a follower. We were all followers at once before we became CEO, but you also have to empower your future CEOs to understand that you can still be a follower of a new leader. So that's what I do.
How is communication important to you as a leader?
It's the most important thing in the world. If you don't communicate, you're bound to fail every single day because lack of communication sets you up for failure in a way that something that could have been said could have solved the problem that may cause something that can happen for 3 months, 6 months, or a year that can be solved in a day. Communication, you communicate with your team, you communicate with your people, and you solve issues. Sometimes you agree to disagree, but as long as those communication lines are open, they know, okay, I understand that sometimes it's not going to always go my way, but majority of the time it will. So we're going to work on these things. But communication makes that ship run so much more smoothly because if you don't communicate, people leave. You never understand why they leave. And people just, I need to find something better, but it could have been better here if you just communicated.
So, like, maybe when somebody leaves or, like, from, like, bad communication, like, what are ways that you improve communication, like, something like that doesn't happen?
Oh, yeah. So we implemented was weekly team meetings. We try to implement that every week. We have, for me personally, I implemented individual meetings. I call it 15-minute check-ins with my team just to see where they are weekly. I can't let it go by and we talk daily, but weekly we have your own personal 15 minutes. Sometimes that 15 turns into an hour, depending on the person in the situation, but they're able to vent, they're able to come up with the solutions or their problems and just address things in that private time. So we build that communication that way, and we just keep going from there.
When you first started doing these 15-minute check-ins, like, were they felt more appreciated?
At first, I'll tell you this, some felt appreciated, others was like, okay, this is just a temporary thing. It's not going to be something that lasts long. It's always going to fade away because the CEO is always busy. But after it came for like the third week and I'm like, hey, your 15 minutes is today, we're going to meet. Or, hey, I got a meeting now. Normally we meet at 9, but I'm in the meeting. I'll be there at 9:30. Can we move it to 9:30? And they're like, oh, it's still happening? Yes, it's still happening. So it became a more fluid thing, but it also opened up relationship with your team to work on other things during the week outside of your 15 minutes. So the communication, when we get there, those things are pinpointed, but also addressed during the week as well. So it actually works and it's very receptive.
So let's say somebody might come in and, like, having a bad day. Like, what are some ways that you're able to try to uplift them?
So for me, I never take a person's bad day personal for me, because you never know what they're going through. That's where the kindness comes in. My biggest thing is I find a way to distract that and make them have fun, even if it's something that distracts you outside of here to here. I am a big person with dad jokes. So I'll walk around like one of the ones I just had the best one. So everybody else says the USA is so great. So why in the world did they create a USB? And then I'll just walk away and they're like, what's wrong with this guy? I'm like, I don't know. I'll just do stuff like that. And they're just like, when they look at me, they just start laughing. It was like, I just can't be mad around you. I said, that's the whole point. We all have things that will tear us down in our personal lives, but I don't want work or your job or the place of your employment to be in addition to that, especially if it's like, hey, we got this deadline, you're not doing your job. No, hey, how can we get this done together? What do you need? So I try to uplift them to make sure that they know they're appreciated and supported.
So when you're having a bad day, what are ways that you're able to make sure that you're able to just keep on going?
This is one thing that you have to understand. Being a CEO is the loneliest seat in the world. Your bad days can affect the entirety of your organization, your business, not just for that day, but for weeks, for months. So it's hard for you to have a bad day. One thing that I do is that if I'm having a bad day, I will sit in my car for a good 10 minutes to meditate and pray, and try to come in. Luckily for me, I have some elder employees here, some of my seniors that work here. I can't hide my bad day. So like a mama Darlene, she'll come in. I'm like, good morning. She's like, what's wrong with you? I'm like, how do you know something's wrong? I was like, come here. And we'll sit and we'll talk. And I'll be able to get my 5 minutes with her. And then the best thing that she will do in being a senior woman, she'll sit there and pray. And I'll come in my office and I'm like, okay, I can tackle the day. And so now, for the time that I'm in this club, all of my issues are out there. I know I can focus on this. So, like, yeah, we know, but I also have my mentors and my friends, my close friends that I can call and talk to if I'm having a bad day. And you know, I know your dad knows that because we're the same thing. We'll call and say, hey, listen, I'm not good. We're man enough to say that. You know, a lot of men are allowed to say that growing up. We learn to change that narrative. I'm not having a good day. Hey, you need to talk. Let's go get some breakfast. Let's go for a ride. And you feel a little bit better because you're bouncing it off of somebody that won't judge you for your bad days or issues, but will care for you and make sure that you're good. That's the part of me being a CEO. You're coming in, and it's happened. I've had bad days where I couldn't hide it. But my staff is like, you know what? Don't you like playing golf? Just go play golf. Go play 9 holes and come back to work. Nah, I got too busy. It's going to be here when you get here. And I'm like, wow. So to have a team that cares about your well-being makes it easier for you to do more.
So how are you able to balance work and family?
Oh, it's hard. Balancing work and family is hard, but also easy if you're doing the same things. If your family is involved in what you're doing, it makes it easy. You know, you're having that time to spend mentoring and working, tying your family into it makes it easier. And seeing the passion that they have with it, it makes it fun. And so just like what you're doing, I know your family is supporting you. It's easy when you can see that and they see the passion, they want to see you succeed. So they dump in, they pour into what you're doing. And that's how it makes it work. It's not going to be a vindictive, oh, you're at work late. You know why you're doing it. You're there for the kids. But, you know, you're there for the community as well. So they get involved and it makes it easy.
So for my final question, I'm going to ask you is, what is one fun fact about yourself that nobody really knows?
One fun fact about Keshawn that nobody knows. Okay, so I was, and I'm old enough to say this now, I was a great football player. How I became a great football player, I took ballet.
Ballet?
I took ballet. Flexibility, agility, footwork, to understand being a person that carries the ball at 5'8", 170 at the time, being a running back, you're getting hit by somebody 300 pounds, you learn how to balance yourself. Ballet was a great tool, and I'm telling you, you would think that that is an easy thing to do. It's one of the hardest things I've ever done in my life. Learning how to be able to flex your body, to be flexible, point your toes, bend, and also being able to apply that. And if we had a VCR and VHS tapes, you can see how when I would get hit. My mom, she was like, I don't know how you got hit and you stood up and kept going. I said, it's all balance. It's all balance. So I can see things. I can feel my body. I can know when that hit is coming. And I was able to use what I learned in ballet. So we know those spin moves is a pirouette. so there's things like that you would just learn. So that was like my hidden thing, is like that fun fact about me that nobody knows. I took ballet.
Thank you for coming onto the podcast today. I appreciate you being to take your time out of your day to allow me to interview you. So thank you.
No problem. Thank you. I love what you're doing. Like I said, the Realistic CEO is a real thing. I pray that you guys will be global with this thing. I know you will. There's kids around the world doing a lemonade stand, wanting to be a CEO, and you are paving the way for that next generation of leaders. And I am so proud.
Thank you.
All right.
All right. Thank you guys for watching this episode of the Realistic CEO podcast. See you guys in the next one. Later.